Hi guys, never really know where to start with videos like this, especially when I've got the organic hand cam out. I just want to run something by some of you. Right, okay, they reckon that the Egyptians were just slave people that built this monument. Yeah, I can't accept that by any means. I think they knew something about nature and this universe that we are struggling to grasp, and even why they built these structures so big to last the test of the time. You're going to see where I'm coming from in a minute, but most of us know now that they built them in the star constellation of Orion. If I just show you that the first two pyramids, the Great Pyramid and the second one, are perfectly in line, and then the third one is just slightly offline. There's the centre of it. And if we look at the star constellation of Orion, we can see that replication there, the two that are perfectly in line and the one slightly offset. I'm doing my best with the camera, so you just have to bear with me. So, you know, I come across, and I've mentioned it before in videos, the winter triangle, and I've got to come straight up clear with you here guys. Why I'm doing this video is because there's a guy called Richard Feynman who I probably forgot about while studying natural sciences, and it was recently brought to my attention that when he was, I think he won the Nobel Prize for an equation that is to do with the propagation of a photon. Now, for people that don't know what a photon is, it's a single molecule of light. Yeah, the sun emits millions of photons. We see through the ability to compute in our brains photons that, you know, we're looking at pictures and so forth, and yeah. But you wouldn't expect the information which I'm about to show you to turn up in the design of the pyramid, let alone any other thing that I'm about to show you. Probably you would never have had it brought to your attention about the pyramid. So we can see the star constellation Orion, and we know that the pyramids in Cairo were built in that formation, with the slightly one being offset. But if we just cast our eyes slightly to the left of the constellation, and if you're in the UK, by the way, you can see Orion's belt and the constellation Orion in the easterly sky if it's clear right now. And you can also see Betelgeuse, Procyon and Sirius as well, those stars that make up the winter triangle. And I don't think it was any coincidence that the pyramid, first of all, was built in the Orion constellation, and that it took on the shape of a triangle when you looked at it, or a pyramidal shape. So if we look into what possibly they was trying to draw our attention to, and I do believe that that was what they was trying to do, for many reasons, which I'll go into a few of them in this video. If we look at the interior, first of all, of the pyramid, we can see that the Queen's Chamber runs pretty much central, in centre line with the pyramid, and we can see that the King's Chamber is slightly offset. So what I did on the star chart is, as you can see, I drew the areas at which the Queen's chamber was, dead centre of the pyramid, and the King's Chamber slightly offset. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see those little dotted lines there, because what we're witnessing here is that these King and Queen's Chamber track the exact position of the galactic equator, the centre of the equator, or the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. And I thought that that cannot be of a coincidence. Now, getting back to the propagation of a photon being 4%, if you work out what 4% is, you're going to either come to, I think you can either work it out at 4%, or you can work it out at 14.4%, or there's that magical number that I always talk about, 144. Now, coincidentally, or maybe not, if we look at the angle of the pyramid in which it was built, there, we'll see that the angle of incline is 51.51 degrees, and if we come down here, we can just see it there, the floor width of the pyramid is 745 feet, without the casting stones that was added on there. So let's just put that into the calculator. So we'll start with the width of the pyramid, 745 divided by 51.51 degrees, and we see 14.4, and that's the propagation of a photon. If you look up Feynman's work, you'll come across the video and you'll see that he talks about 4% a lot. He also will show you in his video that where on a sine wave in one of his videos where exactly that 4% is, and it should be taken from, and it's dead centre of a sine wave, and which is what we're looking at when we're looking at the galactic equator. It looks like a big sine wave. The other thing is, you probably think, oh, that could be a coincidence that we've divided the angle of incline by the the width of the pyramid, and we've got 14.4 degrees, or well, let me just show you that if we was talking about a circle on this, 360 take away 4%, right, if I press the equals, you get 14.4%. It's interesting that we orbit the sun, and therefore if we just use the 360 and take away the 4%, which is the propagation of a photon, we get that answer, 14.4%. And you might think, well, there is another coincidence, but this is one thing that has had me puzzled today. If we get a ruler and just measure that line as best we can, and follow that line to the declination scale, you can see it's not quite 15 positive declination on the side of this star chart. And that is the winter triangle that we're measuring. I'll try and get it as accurate as I can. It's around about just under 15. Now I'm just thinking, for argument's sake, would we agree that was 14.4? Guys, I don't believe that this pyramid was just built for any other reason than to give us information that was important about a time perhaps which we would come to understand it a bit better. First of all, I've been messing around with a few things. I wanted to know what 4% of 360 actually looked like, and you can see there that there is more than one proportion of 4%, or what would be 14.4% of 360 degrees. And you can see that the three there that I've put down, there's a reason why I did this. First one is that I measured the angle of from the centre to the edge of the 4%, 4%. Why did I use that? The reason why I used that is because if we look at where the King's chamber is, from the centre line to the declination, we get 3% positive. And if we do it from the King's chamber to the declination, roughly, it's not perfect, but if we look across there, we get negative 3 degrees declination. Now if you look on the Earth where the pyramids are positioned, you'll know that they're 30 degrees north and 30 degrees east. I mean, this cannot be by any coincidence that all this falls down. I believe that what they've done here is incorporated quite a lot of technical understanding. And what you've got to believe, what you've got to understand is, if you're working with very highly advanced culture, that they're going to be very efficient in the way in which they submit the information. Right, so right now you probably look at it and just think a pyramid. Well, if you could X-ray the pyramid, you'd see where the King and Queen's chamber is. But for measurements, we've been able to do that without the X-rays, and we know that they're offset centre the King's chamber is, and it just so happens to track the galactic equator perfectly. No two ways about it. It's tracking it perfectly. So I got the protractor out, and I just wanted to measure. I'll just leave it there just while I get this set up so you can see it, because I know there was two ways in which I did this, and I don't want to look at the full, but there you go. So what I've done here is, you can see I've got the one end of this pyramidal structure, and you can see that it's at 50, just over 50 degrees. So the angle of this line here that I've drew on this circle is at 50 degrees. That one's at 50 degrees, and you can see what I've did there, can't you? In between these two marks, I squared it. Right, now I did it first of all to find out what the distance was between each one of these 4%, and these are 3 4%, and I got the 3 4% because I just had an idea that these threes, positive and negative, meant something. And I mean, I don't know quite where I'm going with this, but what I'm going to show you here is that when you square this, it looks like we're looking down on top of, a pyramid. As you can see there. So I don't think, first of all, the fact that we get, a declination positive of 14.4 degrees is by any coincidence. I don't think there's any coincidence in the King and Queen's chamber being +3 and -3, and I don't think there's any coincidence that this just so happens to be 4% and 4%. Being, a representation of the Richard Feynman equation of propagation of a photon. So, where do we go here from here, guys? I mean, there's a lot more that I've actually come to find out about this. There's our there's our winter triangle here on this, this map here, on this planisphere. And, it just so happens that when you line the triangle up perfectly, you end up on the 3rd of January, but if you rotate it 360 degrees, you end up in the 1st of June. And again, being in the centre of this sine wave where this has been placed, it's no coincidence, is it? But what does all this mean? I think there's a lot more information embedded in the dimensions of the pyramids. It proves that these pyramids were designed by very intelligent people that knew such things such as the propagation of photons. In fact, if you look at an obelisk from above, it'll look like a pyramid, and the word obelisk is a representation. You can look this up as a sun god, Ra, and what comes from the sun, photons. But I mean, this is very, very confusing on one hand, but it's obviously demonstrating the knowledge of some particle physics, especially if you're talking about the propagations of photons and how that reflects. So I just thought I'd just put this video out there, guys. The other thing is I will include in this video is just some other information about this. This is not new information. It's not new, I believe, to even the Egyptians, or it could have come around about a way of time where this was widely accepted knowledge. And the very reason those pyramids was built in the first place was either for, you know, an understanding of greater technology, but you know, I'll leave it with you guys. You know, you can't deny what I've just showed you as being just a coincidence. You know, it just cannot be passed off as a coincidence. They knew it. This structure was built in the dimensions that prove it. Now, what does this mean? We're talking about sine waves. We're talking about, you know, possibly energy, and we're talking about a specific point at which you take that energy. So, you know, let's just see where this goes. You know, I'm glad I've picked up the. I don't know why I did today, but I'm glad I've picked back up on this stuff because it was very much unfinished. Just want to show you a couple of artifacts that are said to be around 17,000 years old that also show some information with regards to this constellation and pyramidal artifacts. Like I say, I'll just show you them anyhow.
So I just wanted to leave this video showing you a few artifacts, and you know, I wanted to also ask you to stop being more observant, guys, because there has been, if you consider the building of those pyramids, a large effort to carry forward some information. Remember, our technology is disposable. The computers, even the latest iPhones, iPads, and computers, laptops, whatever you call it, are diminishable. And it seems the more high-tech we get, the finer the circuitry we design. Things fade away very quickly over a period of time. I mean, just picture this. If you threw your iPhone into the garden and left it there for 10 years, how much of the iPhone would be recognisable? And you know for a fact it wouldn't work. So you put it in stone if you want it to last the test of time. And our ancestors, I believe, wanted us to know something. These artifacts that you're looking at in this video are right now over 17,000 years old. Carlos Donner is a curator of an unusual collection of artifacts. He usually does these rare events and puts on these artifacts. He borrows them from, you know, museums all over the world that have got these. But this one in particular is said to be 17,000 years old. And what I want to draw your attention to, if we can just get a marker so I can show you, hold on, is the fact, first of all, that the two figures are looking up. And if we look at the base, we see the winter triangle. And we also see the star constellation Orion. And to the right of it, we can see a goblet, a large goblet, and we can see again the winter triangle and the star constellation Orion on the goblet. And these stars on this, or these markings that mark out the winter triangle and the Orion constellation, actually glow in ultraviolet light. So how 17,000 years ago these primitive people, if were so to believe the archaeologists, you know, that described the people of these times being very primitive, how they managed to know how to produce fluorescent material at that period of time is one thing. You could set that aside as maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but there's something else. Inside this cup, it's magnetic, and on the outside it's not. And I don't know how they achieved that in this mineral that they've used for this, but for some reason it blocks magnetic anomalies. And the other thing is, I've been talking about this 14.4 degrees representing 4%, and I've also been talking about Richmond Friedman and you know what he was saying about the propagation of a photon. If we take the number either 14.4 or 144, we just divide 144 by, or no, forget the division, we'll square 144, we end up with 12, and we end up with 12 goblets here. And it's interesting that you fill these goblets up apparently to the brim, and you pour each one into this larger goblet, that it fills it up completely. Now, I'm lost, to be honest, as what our ancestors are trying to tell us here, but you know what, I'm no longer going to take our ancestors for granted in their knowledge, because they are showing an in-depth knowledge of material, understanding of this universe, and even on the atomic scale. When you're talking about the propagation of photons, we're talking about the micro, and they're asking us to look at it on the grand scale of the macro. It's an amazing thing. I, for one, haven't got all the answers, guys. Some of this stuff, it just leaves me thinking and thinking and thinking, and I enjoy that. I really do. I get a pleasure from knowing that the mainstream science community have got it completely and totally and utterly wrong. Yet, our ancestors found something really important, and they wanted to share it with us. And we are just waking up to what that is. Now, frequencies, on the star chart earlier when we looked at them, we could see that the pattern in which the galactic ecliptic forms the sine wave of a frequency, and Freeman's equation, of the 4%, tells us something important about the centre of the sine wave. Perhaps a positive and a negative, a north and a south pole, and the importance of what lies slap bang in the centre of that is the equilibrium of the both. And we don't know where we can take that in our technology. Who knows where this leads? But with what I've been talking about with the Peltier elements, you put cold on one side, you put hot on the other, and you get electricity production. And with some of the other ideas that I've had, if we're looking in that direction, then our ancestors are certainly telling us that we should be looking in that direction. They're giving us some massive clues here, guys. And like I say, I haven't put it all together. I certainly haven't. And what I'm suggesting is that we brainstorm this. What are our ancestors showing us here? Because whatever it is, they went to a very extensive effort to make sure that we got it. In building that pyramid couldn't have been easy, but they did it. It must have been something remarkable. Pyramids are found all over the world, and there's a massive importance in these. And I think what it is with us is that we're like children. We've understood the fact that a pyramid seems to be important for some reason, but we don't quite know why. I think our ancestors knew why, and I think what they're asking us to do, thousands of years, is just work it out. It's a clue. It's a wrinkle. There are hidden secrets within that pyramid. I can promise you that. If we can divide the angle of the pyramid by the width of the pyramid, and we get, for some coincidental reason, if that's what some people want to think, the number 14.4, or we know that represents 4% of the propagation of a photon. We know that these pyramids had a lot to do with the sun, and we know that photons come off the sun in more quantity than anywhere else in the world. It's the ability to see light that it's really important, guys. That has to be the foundation for us to explore this further. Because if these artifacts, are 17,000 years old, then there is an understanding at some point between then and now that we have lost, and the significance of these pyramidal structures, of the Winter Triangle, of the star constellation Orion, and the fact that it's all mathematically related. Maybe, the fact that, the universal language is in maths. It may just be that, but I think there's more to it. They're asking us to look up and see. There's just a couple of other photos that I've got of artifacts that date back to this time. So let's just show you a few others. Here's another one, and as you can see, there's a little red string with a magnet being dangled down there, and the centre of this artifact is highly magnetic, and it's attracting the magnet on the end of the string. They're trying to tell us something. I think it could be technologically based, this information, electromagnetism, something to do with the centre of the sine wave, and spiralling out. We've got to work this out. There's some, we probably, excuse me, we probably have the information to hand, but it's decoding it, guys. It seems, it'll probably seem so simple when we figure it out, but there is something here that is being shown. Again, another artifact. Again, here's another one. Pyramid structure. Some would probably say this is the all-seeing eye. There's what looks to be layers and layers of bricks up to a certain point, perhaps to the point of the capstone. And, again, when this is put in dark light, there's a fluorescent anomaly observed at the centre of the eye, if that's what it is. Again, this is 17,000 years old, guys. I believe that they knew something that is relevant about all this, and we seem to have just walked straight past it. We can't see the wood through the trees, and taken no notice. And it could turn out to be the most important thing ever on this earth. I believe that a lot of these artifacts that was collected for this museum exhibition were all around about the same age. There's one I'm hoping that I've got a photo. Let's see if I can find it for you. No, I don't seem to have that photo. What it was is of a diorite plate. I might not have the material right that this plate was made of, but it showed the reproduction of human beings, and it also in detail showed the reproduction between two cells and those creating embryos and fetals, and it showed you the 9-month duration period of pregnancy. Again, this was accompanied with specialised surgical tools to deal with complications, I believe. But the one thing is that the material that they're made of is like a stone type material, and it's very detailed and engraved. And the thing is that according to the narrator of this exhibition, that this material couldn't be cut and shaped today without it damaging it. So, I thought I'd include this photo of a crop circle for the simple fact that, again, this links up with some of this stuff, going back to the Egyptian city of Abydos. There's a temple of Osiris there, and on the wall, some say it's burned in with a laser or it's just painted on there. You got the flower of life, and I've showed you before. I took a small segment of that and worked out that there was a slight border pattern around the flower of life that seemed to have 144 triangles. This crop circle has 144 triangles. You know, we've got the cube, and in the center of the cube it looks like one of the corners have been removed from that cube, and you can see in there that there's a star. You know, I am lost for words, guys. I've got lots of crop circles that throw up the same thing, 144 all the time. You know, I know that if you add 1 plus 4 plus 4, you get 9. You know, and you know, it seems to be on a mathematical basis of 9. Some would disagree that it also fits probably other mathematical bases. You know, let's forget that fact. Let's just accept the fact that it does amount to a 1 and a 4 and a 4, whether that's 14.4 or a 144. Something else is being shown here, I believe. Again, I think we need to pay attention. There's something in this, and this is coming from a man that has studied science, you know, and I can imagine what other scientific minded people would say. You know, I think you are mixing science with pseudoscience, but all I'm saying is that there is facts being presented that state that this is more than just simple coincidence. And you know, I've just got to use Occam's razor here and say, you know that tends to be the simplest, tends to be the truth. So, you know, guys, I'm hoping that, you know, you've got something from this video. There's definitely, I'm not with, you know, with any doubts at all that there is definitely something here, and it could turn out to be everything. It could turn out to be the answer, really, to over unity, free energy, and a greater understanding of our universe, and I believe it will. We just need to figure out more about what it's at, and that's why I've made this video. You know, I'll throw it out there to you guys. I think we should brainstorm this, and you know, you might think, oh, you probably laugh at what I say, but you know, don't do that. Tell me what your thoughts are. You know, even if they're wild, you know, let's have them. Let's think out the box on this. You know, and definitely look up Richard Feynman's equation and his propagation of the photon. You know, and you'll see where I'm going with this. This cannot be built. These pyramids cannot be built by primitive people. They are high-tech, highly civilized people that built these in case of something ever happened. I'm hoping that we would really pick up from where they, you know, the technological advancement, where they left off, and the reason why they built these structures was for that purpose, and not like what some archaeologists say they were built for pharaohs to be put in, because in these pyramids there was never pharaohs buried inside them. There was just an empty, so we're led to believe, empty sarcophagus inside the king's chamber with nothing in it. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up why they used the star constellation, why they chose the winter triangle, why they had the king's chamber offset slightly, and that so happens to track the galactic equator. These people knew something, and I think it's worth following up on that. You know, guys, I'm going to apologise for the length of time I've took of your time. This has certainly took up 3 parts of my day today, and you know, it doesn't always come across the best way because it's not scripted, but you know, it's more honest. If I started to script everything, I would probably assume it would take me 5 times more than the time it does to make these videos. But you know, it's it's like an organic way of doing it. I'm not going to rattle on anymore, guys. Absorb what you saw in this video. Leave your comments down there. If you want to contribute to some of the research on this channel, there's a link there as well. And you enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. And I'll say what I usually do, and that is bye for now.